Wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
Welcome back, my friends, to Talk to Solomon. That's me, Stan Solomon. I'm the host.
I'm Chief Steve Davis, the in-studio co-host.
And we appreciate Steve being with us on a regular basis. We had hoped to have Greg Howard with us today, but he was not able to make it, at least so far. And we have Major General Jerry Curry, who's supposed to join us. He hasn't made it so far. We're hopefully going to get him here shortly. But I want to introduce a topic that everyone's talking about. Cyprus is a very small country. Most people don't even know where Cyprus is, but they think about it because it's where Exodus, the movie Exodus, where that story emanated from. A lot of the Jews, when they left Europe, were sent to Cyprus. Then they were gathered, they got on ships, and they sent them on to Israel, the newly developed country of Israel. And of course, the Arabs didn't like that, and there's all kinds of intrigue. At any rate, Cyprus is half Greek and half Turkish. And let me tell you something, those folks don't like each other for whatever their reasons. Well, the government of Cyprus, now listen to this, is in deep trouble, like most governments, like our government, but they're a small country, about 1 million people, I think. So they decided their answer, now listen to this, is to go where the money is. Well, where is the money? Well, it's in the bank. So they decided to go, and in their particular country, their banks have more money than their total economy because a lot of people deposit money in those banks as kind of a safe haven, particularly Russians. So they decided they were just going to give all the bank accounts a haircut from 6 to 10%, and that money they could use to fulfill the requirements so they could get a loan from the International Monetary Fund. Did I say that clearly?
Sounded clear to me.
Okay. A funny thing happened on the way to the haircut. People found out about it. Now, they did this on the weekend, thinking people wouldn't go to the bank on the weekend, wouldn't know what their balance was on the weekend. And then Monday morning, they were going to vote on it in their legislature. They were going to pass it, and it'd be a fait accompli. It's a done deal. Well, we went to an intellectual giant, well, I'm exaggerating a little bit, a guy named Greg Gutman. He's on Fox, Gutfeld. What did I say? Gutfeld. All right. Well, he's got a gut anyway. So he's on the 5. He's a bright guy, talented guy. And frankly, I like a lot of his ideas. He had, shall we say, a little bit of a monologue on what he thought folks in Cyprus should do. Here it is. I don't hear a sound. There's no sound. All right, we'll have to come back to it. We didn't get the sound going. We'll work on that. But let me summarize some of it. Don't like it. Don't tolerate it. Don't listen. And don't sit back and relax. Are we ready now? Not ready. Okay. Your thoughts, Chief.
Well, every day in the world, governments all over the world commit crimes against the people that they are supposed to be serving. In this particular case, if this was a business, the people responsible would be guilty of embezzlement, which is a crime.
Or theft.
But same thing, just a different way of getting the money, stealing the money, different way of stealing the money. But what happens is the governments have no money unless they take it from somebody else. They take it from, well, they can print money, but it's really worthless unless they have something to back it up with. But if we were to do what our government does, we'd all be in prison today.
So why don't we just put everyone in government in prison?
That'd be a good start. It sure would.
Are we ready? All right, let's try it again.
So Cyprus is mulling a plan to tax bank deposits in their country. The breakdown: below 100,000 euros are going to be taxed at 6.75%. Above 100,000 euros, you're taxed at 9.9%. Above 500,000 euros, you're taxed at 15%. The wholesale robbery has caused citizens to rush to get their money out. The response? The banks closed. So how can a government assume that it can get away with this? Because they assume they can get away with this. While Cypriots can own guns, it's a bear to get them. There is no gun culture there, which then allows the government to wonder of its docile populace, what are they going to do? Shoot us? Well, in America, yes, we will shoot you. Gun control advocates mock gun owners over their belief that guns protect us from government tyranny. But ask yourself this, what would happen if the government here tried to take over your bank account? War, it would be on. Cyprus just proved that Joe Biden's notion of all you need is a shotgun is deeply flawed. Sadly, though, the steal from the rich mentality is alive and well in America. Remember Occupy Wall Street? And how different is the Cyprus solution from the class warfare rhetoric that demands your wealth gets spread around? The defense against this toxic ideology isn't only reason, but it's reason with a rifle. So yeah, it'll never happen here. And you have the good sense of our founding fathers to thank for it.
Yeah.
I love it. We now have with us Major General Jerry Curry. General, how are you, sir?
Super.
Glad to have you with us. Did you hear that we just went through with Greg Gutfeld when he suggested that the American government would try to do what the government of Cyprus has just done, that we would have a revolution?
Yeah, I think he's right. I gotta tell you, I don't have any great qualms about this. If they go down that road, all bets are off, baby. It's every man for himself.
Well, what is different between the government taking 6 to 15% of what's in your bank account from the government taking from 10 to 50% of your earnings? Isn't it the same theft with a different perfume on?
Absolutely, and I don't like the smell of the perfume.
So are you suggesting, sir, since you're an esteemed leader and a champion of the Constitution, that we organize ourselves such that we can convince the government that the time for them taking our hard-earned dollars is over?
You know, I'm a guy who is strictly in favor of doing things legitimately, legally. I don't believe mob violence and all that sort of stuff. The mob's in the street. But I got to tell you, Americans are just, you know, from the time of Patrick Henry to now, Americans are just not known as people who just kick back and go to sleep and let the government rob them of anything the government wants. And I really believe if you go down this road of just confiscating it, which is what they're doing, confiscating people's money, you're going to get a reaction that nobody really wants to deal with. And it's going to be a violent reaction, and people are going to get hurt.
Chief?
Yeah, I'm reminded of a quote from Clubber Lang in Rocky III. And he said, "I'll destroy any man who tries to take what I got." And I think the point here is that a lot of people don't realize how many taxes are being taken out of their money when they earn it. They look at their take-home pay or whatever, and they don't really realize what's already gone before they get it. But they know what's in their bank account, and they know what's going to be missing, and it really strikes a real deep chord with them.
I think that we are seeing the waters being tested. You know, there's a saying, let's hoist it up the flagpole and see who salutes. I think what they're doing in Cyprus has very little to do with Cyprus. It has to do with European governments and other governments around the world seeing how the population reacts to such a move. Because I think that our president and our Congress and our political parties, both of them, would be very comfortable with the concept of what's ours is ours and what's yours is ours. In fact, Hillary Clinton at one time said, the government has a right to people's earnings and assets and can not take what it does not need for the greater good. Do you remember that?
Yes. And the government should not be taking what it doesn't need for the greater good. I just think if we go down this road, we don't know what the end is going to be, and I have a gut feeling the end is not going to be good. We are not going to be very happy with the result we get from stealing money. It's really worse than stealing money, confiscating money from the American taxpayer.
Now, General, They say the country of New Zealand is considering the same thing. That's instead of 1 million people, New Zealand has 3 million people. I think that world leaders somewhere in a darkened room, a smoke-filled room, are trying to see what they can make happen, what they can engineer, so as to, quote-unquote, enslave, they won't use that word, people all across this planet.
Listen, you're not off. You're right on target. I agree. I didn't say anything, but I agreed with you before when you were pointing out that Cyprus is really not about Cyprus. I don't think this New Zealand thing will be about New Zealand. Somewhere, I don't know where, but somewhere, some people, like you said, maybe in that darkened room you're talking about pulling the strings, somewhere there, that's something is going on behind the scenes. This is too coordinated. And it's very clear that their intentions are, if they can sell this to the American public, then they'll just go ahead and take it over. And you can see a little bit of this, by the way, in the United States on a whole different subject, which is we just had some polls came out, and the polls say that same-sex marriage is wonderful. But the American people today are saying, in their voting and all the things that they are doing, and they vote with their feet, the American people are saying, no, it's not okay. We're opposed to it.
Again, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that there are some groups of people in some parts of the country, there are stories about a Methodist church and the church hierarchy said no to homosexual marriage. So this church said, well, we disagree with the hierarchy. It's like Catholics that disagree with the Pope. And we're not going to perform any heterosexual marriages until you authorize us to perform homosexual marriages. Look, I think everyone has a right to their opinion, to their feelings, to their concerns, whatever they are. But you know, we have something called civilization, where we agree to give up some of the things we might like to do in order to be able to live together in a civilized way. And I think there are some people that say, I don't want to have to say no to anything that I want, whatever it might be. And neither do we have a group on the sexual side, but we have a group on the material side. You know, they've been hiding, covering up, trying to dampen down the racial war that is happening, where we've had not one, not 10, not 100, not 1,000, but tens of thousands of incidents of people being attacked for their race. And they're trying to say, oh no, this was just whatever, a theft. Or well, Chief, jump in here, because you know what I'm talking about.
Sure, and like the mob attacks, that the mob thefts from the stores and the malls, and the attacks that are taking place, and it's all racially motivated, and all these events. And also, if we've looked at the descriptions of crimes, and when there's a minority involved, you don't hear a description of race involved. Only if there's a white person involved do they mention the race of the perpetrator or the alleged perpetrator. So this, especially in America, this government is promoting racial discomfort. They're promoting racial tension. They want it to happen. They want us to be focused against each other, so we're not focused against them.
Yeah, General?
Amen. Amen, Chief. I'm with you all the way. I think exactly so. You know, when this president came in 2008, everybody said, you know, he's a healer. He's going to bring the nation together. This guy has been driving a wedge between white and black, Hispanic, or whatever it may be. He has been driving a wedge every day that he has been in power, and he is going to continue to do it until something happens.
And then he will duck, get a new set of clothing, and claim he wasn't there. It's amazing, the audacity. Now, speaking of not there, there was a discussion on one of the television programs where Lindsey Graham, a guy I'm not a big fan of, but he talked about the fact that Ambassador Stevens, Chris Stevens, was in fact in Benghazi on that fateful day because they were trying to secure weaponry that they had given to the Libyan rebels when they were fighting Gaddafi, that they didn't want to go to the Al-Qaeda types. And in fact, this had been arranged previously, and they were trying to secure that weaponry. Now, that was exposed on Glenn Beck's program months ago, frankly, within a few days after the tragedy there, and yet we still don't know all that happened. They're still guarding or sheltering or not making the people that were there available to the members of the House and the Senate to find out all the facts. And we still have, and now that Hillary's emails are being exposed, some of them, so maybe the truth will come out that she did know, just like we know that Obama knew, and they opted, in order to protect themselves politically, not to go in there and say that Al-Qaeda was in fact strong enough to attack American interests and to kill an American ambassador.
This administration cannot be trusted. Cannot be trusted in any way with anything. And I watch the way they work and what they're all about, and what they're not disclosing and what they are disclosing, which is very little, by the way. The problem to me is not the administration. The administration is filled with people who lie to us and who intend never to tell us the truth. What bothers me is the Republicans set up there on Capitol Hill and let this happen. Where are the Rand Pauls? Why can't somebody from start some kind of a filibuster on any kind of bill that's going through? Well, they don't have any bills going through, but they should have. But get a filibuster on anything. It doesn't matter what it is. For example, why the United States Congress controls the purse strings? Why don't they just say to the president, all the money is shut off until you send those people over here to testify? We could do that. We have that power. And yet we're not doing that. We're just rolling over and laying down and saying, isn't that too bad?
Well, we saw the mini filibuster, which I appreciated. But the fact is, they're letting this president do to America what they know is not good for America. And I find that inconceivable, actually. Just inconceivable. Chief?
Well, the general's absolutely right. We just heard John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, say that he trusts President Obama. Now, how could you possibly say that if you're the Republican Speaker of the House when Obama has lied left and right on about everything that he's campaigned on and ever said since? And now we have the ambassador in Benghazi murdered while we knew it was, Americans knew it was happening, and then they let him die because I believe they didn't want him to be able to talk about anything else. As soon as he's killed, dead men tell no tales. And then on top of this, what we do know, though, we do know that Leon Panetta was given authority by the president to take whatever action he felt necessary to protect him, and he did nothing. So Leon Panetta should have, according to his testimony, had the power of the president to call on every aid necessary, and he should have done that and possibly saved Ambassador Stevens' life.
Steve, I'm with you completely, and what you say is absolutely true, and that's my point, which is we do have enough power through the power of the purse in the House of Representatives. We do have enough power to bring any president to his knees. We could have, I don't care who it is, Reagan. We could have him begging us to let up. Yeah, and they said, but if you do that, you know, you'll get a bad report with the American people. The answer is, so what? If we're talking about the future of this country and the future of this civilization, the future of this nation, who cares whether some Republican isn't elected and re-elected again? I don't care whether they are, and they shouldn't care.
Well, I would think that we should be able to find the kind of statesman that would put America first and not their political future first. And I sense your frustration, and I agree with you. Speaking of frustration, in 1999, we allocated $62 million to build a memorial for General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, and a budget of, I think, $2 million a year while they were getting it done. Well, 1999 was 14 years ago. They haven't built anything. They've spent money every year. They have all these people that they're funding, and we're nowhere. While we're talking about where does money come from to pay for the Easter Bunny at the egg roll, or to keep the White House tours going, or whatever else this phony baloney president is trying to say is the Republicans' fault for the deal that he put forward, that they're simply honoring the deal that he suggested. Here's a perfect example. What has happened to this money? And why would we, for 14 years, have people on the payroll for a deal that was supposed to take, 3 years to 4 years to complete?
Well, it sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I mean, my goodness, Stan, what's the salary? They probably doubled the salary every year. These guys are doing well. They're getting a great salary. They're fat cabinet. They're spending your money and my money and the rest of the American citizens' money. They're not doing anything but making money, getting paid for what? For doing nothing. They aren't doing anything, and they have no intention of doing anything except talk about it. And they will do all the talking you want, all the talking you're willing to pay them for.
It's amazing. We have offices that are still open in Washington, D.C. for things that have not existed for decades. And yet we're still paying people. And no one seems to want to say, well, let's just stop.
Well, and empty buildings all over the place that are still owned and rented or owned and operated by the government that have nothing in them. But this story, Dwight Eisenhower was not only a president, he was a commanding general in World War II and fought against the Third Reich and defeated them, which is why we are still a free country today. Hope we're still free. But for American Congress to hire some foreigner to create this memorial to Eisenhower and then not get this done, and also he did give some type of an idea, concept that has appalled the Eisenhower family. I think the whole thing is just really so bad. It's just unbelievable. At first, we've wasted the money. We've hired a foreigner to do this and appalled Eisenhower's family with their concept. The whole thing is just, to me, just shows how inefficient, terrible, and awful our government is, and it has to be changed.
I'm going to go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Just going to say, the Vietnam Memorial the same way. We had, I think she was either Chinese or Vietnamese who designed it for us, and that's what we've got. That piece of black marble there stuck in the ground. Very heroic.
Yeah. Well, the guys were heroic. There's no question. But you're right. I was at a Walmart store over the weekend, and a young man, I don't know, 17, 18, 19, in that neighborhood, walked by, and an older lady, as he walked by, after he was out of earshot, commented, "Why would a young man want to look like that?" And I said, being a talkative type, I said, it's because the clothing designers and the hair designers are homosexuals. They want guys to look like they're queer, and they want girls to look like they're ugly. And they buy into that. And she said, "Are you kidding?" I said, "Don't you know that pants below the butt thing, that comes from homosexuals in prison that want to know that their behind is available for sexual activity, for whatever favors that will glean them? That's what all this is about." She said, "You got to be kidding." I said, No, it's amazing who we look to for guidance on anything from a memorial for soldiers or a former president to clothing design. We'll talk more when we come back. This is Talk to Solomon, our guest of honor, Major General Jerry Curry, my co-host, Chief Steve Davis, and me, Stan Solomon. We'll be back.